the big news of the day. We are down to just 2 teams looking for their head coach for the 2026 NFL season. The Cleveland Browns have theirs. And, man, you wonder how, Brad, that certain teams lose year after year after year after year. And even if you run into a couple of good winning seasons with a 2-time Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski, you find a way ultimately to screw it up if you've got pathetic ownership and a really bad front office and no direction. And so 2 years where Kevin Stefanski guided the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs with Baker Mayfield still nowhere near the Baker Mayfield that he is now, and Joe Flacco coming off the couch out of retirement a couple of years ago. Outside of that, you wonder why the Cleveland Browns continue to be a dysfunctional dumpster fire. Just look at what they've done with this head coaching hire and this head coaching process. No disrespect to Todd Monken. The guy was there in 2019 as the offensive coordinator. Their offense was a disaster that year. And there was dysfunction. And yeah, Freddie Kitchens, who should probably never be allowed to be a head coach of a Pee-wee football team, let alone an NFL team ever again. He was the head coach, and he basically deviated from Todd Monken's offensive plans. And then Todd Monken basically was telling the opposing coaches, yeah, this is a freaking mess here, man. I'm probably going to be gone at the end of the year. Which he was. And he goes to Georgia, and he helps win 2 national championships. Then goes to Baltimore, helps Lamar Jackson win an MVP. But still, he was already there in Cleveland in 2019 as the offensive coordinator. It didn't go well. But for me, Jim Schwartz has got to be feeling like he got dogged and he got hosed because he did. And he should have been the head coach. I said it from the beginning, and I really thought my prediction was going to be spot on because for once, I trusted that Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam would actually make the right decision. And I said, Jim Schwartz has built this defense into a top 5 unit, right? And I feel like we all kind of just look back at the last couple of years and we're like, well, no, Cleveland's defense was like always great, right? It's just because their offense stinks. No. Their offense has almost always been putrid, and so it feels like the defense has always been good. Their defense was in the bottom half of the NFL 3 out of the 4 years before Jim Schwartz got there. And since, in 2 out of the last 3 seasons, they've been top 5 in yards allowed per game, including number 1 in yards allowed per game 2 years ago. In his first year, this guy has helped architect an elite defense that has even allowed the Browns to win a couple of games over the last couple of years because the offense has been so terrible. He calls the plays on defense. It would have been a simple promotion, a simple elevation to head coach. He's been a head coach before, got the Lions to the playoffs once. Okay, you can say what you want about the last year or two there. How many coaches make the playoffs and then they don't make the playoffs in 2 years in a row and they get fired? You can go through the names, endless lists. How many Hall of Fame coaches have gotten fired this cycle? Jim Schwartz could have handled the defense, and then all you needed to do was find an offense coordinator to run the plays and run the offense, and that is it. And there was always the risk that you would have pissed off Jim Schwartz, that you would have upset him, that you would have dogged him like the Cleveland Browns did. You would have dragged this process out later than everybody but 2 other teams just to bring in Todd Monken. And it could have been worse if they hired Nathan Scheelhaus. And look, I think he could be a good young candidate. He could have been the offensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz could have been the head coach. Bang, that's a nice little pairing right there. And instead, they bring in Todd Monken, and Jim Schwartz goes, oh, that's it. I'm out. I'm out of here. Screw you guys. That's the reporting from Pelissero and Garofolo and Rappaport. And now it looks like the Browns are going to have to find a new defensive coordinator, and Todd Monken's going to be the head coach, tasked with at the same time trying to get something out of this offense, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson and no talent around them outside of Quinshawn Judkins and Harold Fannin. Good luck. Because the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Browned. And Jimmy Haslam, he Haslammed. And I thought they got this totally wrong. They're going to pay for this. They're probably going to win 3 or 4 games again next year. And Jim Schwartz is going to go be a DC somewhere else. And that unit's going to be a top 5 unit. It's probably going to be in San Francisco.
Yeah, and I'll take the under of 3.5 wins. I concur with your perspective on this. Just a lack of creativity. We were talking about how Joe Brady and his elevation last night, going from offensive coordinator to the Buffalo Bills, head position. I described and compared it as going to Baskin Robbins and ordering straight up vanilla with no toppings whatsoever, and in a cup. You didn't even get a cone. This is equivalent to like ordering from your favorite pizza place and getting just cheese, going full like Kevin McAllister on that ass from Home Alone and not getting a single topping. No pepperoni, no vegetables, no sausage, nothing. Cheese only. That's what this hire is. I don't really understand it. Browns are going to Brown, just like as you mentioned. And you would suspect, you at least think, that this Cleveland organization would want to make their best player on the field, and Myles Garrett, the happiest man imaginable. Given the relationship that he has with Schwartz, given the fact that Schwartz had him maximized to a record level in sacks this past year, don't you want to appease him? Don't you want to, make him the happiest of guys imaginable on this roster? Just promote Jim Schwartz. As you mentioned, Nathan Shieldhouse, I know he's young. He's relatively inexperienced. Coming from that McVay coaching tree in the LA Rams, he's a hot candidate right now. He was involved in some of the head coaching interviews and went through the process, including the head coach vacancy there in Cleveland without ever having been an OC in this league. But he's he's an up-and-coming decision maker and a guy that could steward what I would feel could be an exceptional offense with the right personnel. So, you look at Monken and what he did in 2019 with that Cleveland team. They were number 22 in the NFL in total yards. Oh, look at this. What a quinky dink. They were also number 22 in total points scored. Yawn. This is so damn stupid, so damn boring. I've been to Cleveland several times in my life. I like the city. I drink the beer there. I've eaten out at a couple of fine restaurants. I've visited the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But put this organization right now on a damn sheet of ice and just push it out into Lake Erie. This is a downright embarrassment. In Cleveland, I'm sorry, but the factory of sadness is still very much operational.
Yeah, phone number to join the show, by the way, is 310-840-4910. That's 310-840-4910. Want to hear from the Browns fans. Want to hear from Cleveland. Want to hear from all football fans in general. What do you think of the Browns hiring Todd Monken? And do you think Jim Schwartz has every right, if the reporting is correct here and it's accurate, do you think Jim Schwartz has a right to leave and go somewhere else? Because I saw a couple of people on social media, somebody, some idiot with the Barstool logo next to his name. So he probably thinks he's more important than he is. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even remember the name. But he goes, everybody, Jim Schwartz, acting as if he's God's gift to earth. Anybody could coach that defense. Again, completely wrong, completely fabricated. What? Because most casual football fans probably only know Myles Garrett on that Browns defense, and we forget just what the elevation of some of the other players on this roster have been. And not to mention, again, I feel like just because of how bad the offense has been for so many years, so many people just assume, well, you could just put you could put a monkey with no brain to coach that defense and they'll be a top 5 unit. Not even true. Here's the Browns defense from 2015 onwards, just a couple of the years. I'll just cherry pick a couple. 29th in points allowed, 27th in yards, 30th in points allowed, 31st in yards, 31st in points allowed in 2017. Fast forward just a couple years before Jim Schwartz got there. In 2019, 20th in points allowed and 22nd in yards allowed, then 21st in points allowed and 17th in yards allowed, and 2022, the year before he got there, 20th in points allowed and 14th in yards. They have been top 5 in yards 2 out of the 3 years, and they have been top 15 in points allowed per game in 2 out of the 3 years. Because, again, think about how pathetic their offense has been, that defense is consistently dealing with short fields. That's the power of Jim Schwartz. You look at where he was before that with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles defense was 30th in points and 28th in yards allowed per game. He gets there. Within 2 years, the defense is a top 5 unit, and they win a Super Bowl. I don't care that this guy was a head coach 15 freaking years ago with the Lions and had a bad finish. He was worthy of getting this head coaching job. And you look at the players that have just elevated around him. Devin Bush, their second leading tackler, guy was a backup 2 years ago in Seattle. He has come here and he's turned into a star. He's going to get a big payday this offseason. Carson Schwezinger's literally going to be the defensive rookie of the year. You think that's just a coincidence? That just people come to Cleveland and they know how to tackle and play at an all-pro level. No, that is freaking Jim Schwartz doing God's work while an offense can't even sustain and hold up their end of the bargain. I'm so sick of what the conversation gets around some of these guys sometimes. Guys that get a head coaching job one time and it doesn't work out at the end. Look at Robert Saleh. Now, he might not have a ton of success in Tennessee, and maybe he ends up being just a really bad head coach, but a really good defensive coordinator. But you're telling me you don't think that he could have some success in Tennessee in a year from now, 2 years from now, and that maybe it's just the Jets are so freaking dysfunctional that they may have broken him, and then he never would have had a chance to succeed there? That's the kind of stuff we're dealing with. And then the Detroit Lions were a dysfunctional band of losers up until Dan Campbell got here. So the fact that Jim Schwartz got him to the playoffs once speaks volumes about what he can do as a head coach. But more importantly, it was right there for Cleveland. Make the smart decision, right? And yep. On the flip side, I hated what Buffalo did in just promoting Joe Brady. They talked about needing to make big changes, needing to get over the hump, and all they did was take out Sean McDermott and elevate the offensive coordinator. With Cleveland, I thought it would have made so much more sense to get that continuity, to keep that stability with the defense where you have so much young talent. And yes, you have Myles Garrett, but you have so much young talent that has developed this year and the last 2 years under Jim Schwartz that all you needed to do was make him the head coach, and then you find the offensive coordinator. And you interviewed Nathan Scheelhaase 87 freaking times. I'm sure that he would have been okay elevating from passing game coordinator with the Rams to offensive coordinator with the Browns, calling an offense, running an offense, and one step away from a head coach. And yet they found a way to botch it yet again. We wonder, Brad, we wonder how some teams continue to fail miserably year after year.
Right.
And the Browns are giving us the blueprint once again.
Yeah, I mean, they're the dregs of the cake for all the reasons you laid out. I think you need to bang out about 50 push-ups right now. You got to release some of this angst, some of this pin-up anger that you currently have, because, man, you are fired up about the just idiocy of this organization, and it's completely understandable. I mean, they're a storied organization, one that's been so hungry, so desperate for a winner. They've gone through a cavalcade of quarterbacks that is very well documented on the backs of a lot of jerseys of the fan base, and everybody, they point fingers and they laugh. That's the Cleveland Browns. But you have a strength, and you laid it out schematically. Jim Schwartz got results. That's all that matters. No matter it's in Detroit, no matter it's in Philadelphia, no matter it's with the Cleveland Browns. He earned a promotion. So I don't blame him at all if the reports are true that he is going to seek employment elsewhere. And I totally agree, man. You had to go outside the organization and find that up-and-coming coach who is equally hungry and very creative, that is going to be able to push the right buttons. He's got to think a little bit differently than prior coaches have. In Cleveland, sticking with a retread and a Todd Monken who, yes, he has affiliations. Yes, he knows the division. Yes, he knows the organization in some way, shape, or form. He's been there before, but he didn't get the results either. So, yeah, it's just a broken clock, man. A vicious cycle of sorts that just keeps going down in C-Town. It's disappointing, but Cleveland is gonna Cleveland.
Yep. Phone number to join the show, 310-840-4910. You're right. I'm a little fired up. I'm a little fired up, man. Because you know what? I used to actually root for the Browns. I actually used to consider myself a Cleveland Browns fan. When they drafted Brady Quinn, that was the peak of my Notre Dame fanboyism. Fanboy, whatever you would call that. Peak fanboy of Notre Dame football. Brady Quinn, Jeff Samardzija. The Browns drafted Brady Quinn. And I don't know, I was a 10-year-old with the rocks in my head. And I said, you know what? I don't really like the Giants. My whole family loves them. They go on to win 2 Super Bowls, by the way, like just in a couple years after that. What a stupid decision by me. I was like, the Browns have been losers for a long time. A nice underdog to root for. Oh, what a horrible decision. Horrible decision. I gave that up like right after high school. I was like, I'm not even from Cleveland. Stupid idea. Brady Quinn was out of the NFL in like 4 years. He tore his ACL after he had a couple of good starts. That was basically it. The guy that I attached my fandom to made it all of 3 years, as did almost every other quarterback in Cleveland. So anyway, I really would like Cleveland to succeed. They had a chance to make a smart decision. They didn't do it.